Brodie Brazil joining us here on the show. Of course, you get to see Brodie all the time on A's pre and post, doing great work for NBC Sports California. Brodie, this is Jason Ross along with Chris Watkins. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good.
We're doing great. We're trying to sort this all out. I know you get asked, and it's probably exhausting to you, but we have a lot of A's fans in this region, and let's just kind of start with the latest right now. Where would you say we are up to the minute with the future of the A's in Oakland?
By the way, light the beam. I should have said
that.
Yes,
That's right. Know your crowd.
And I thought we were actually, I didn't know we were talking baseball. I was going to do a whole Malik Monk breakdown.
Oh, we can definitely get that in. Yeah.
I like, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
He was one of my favorites, actually, of everything that happened in the cool season. So I'll actually use a basketball analogy to describe like where we're at right now. The Kings were leading by 2, and the Warriors all of a sudden hit a free throw, hit 2 free throws, right? Tied the game up, and now all of a sudden you're the Kings, you've got the basketball. These were the meetings that the A's and the city of Oakland were scheduled to have, 1-2 weeks ago, the summit they were supposed to have, and all of a sudden opposition comes in, steals the basketball away from Sacramento. Now we've got less than a minute left. In fact, you know what? We've got less than 24 seconds left.
Yikes.
No shot clock. They've got the basketball. The game is basically all up to them. And when I say that, the analogy I'm referring to here is Las Vegas. It really does feel like if they can come up with $500 million of public money, I don't see how the A's stay in Oakland. I think that is all entirely up to them. Now, it's a long and winding process. It requires the money approval. It requires all of this happening either in the next 30 days with the legislative session in Nevada that's going on in Carson City, or a special session. But again, it requires a vote. It requires public commentary on this. It also requires MLB owner approval. We'll see if they waive the relocation fee. But I'm here to say that if they hit this shot and they've got the basketball, final possession, it could be over for Oakland. Simple as that.
Brodie, you kind of mentioned in that analogy the Kings were up by 2 in this analogy, so things were heading towards the right direction. It felt like in Oakland. Did it feel strange to you the timing of the Vegas announcement, with again things kind of trending towards Oakland's way a little there?
100%. And I will never forget, guys, the night that it happened. It was April 19th. It was right after I watched Ted Lasso with my wife. I was off. Actually, the A's played a day game. Yeah. And I was just minding my own business and got a few messages like, you need to see this. This just came out. And sure enough, it just did come out. And we at this point, nobody knew that the A's in Oakland were scheduled in the next week, right? This was a Wednesday night. The next week, the next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, which were now last Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, these two sides were supposed to get together to have this very high-level yes or no meeting. And as Mayor Sactown of Oakland said, and we'll take her word for this, that these two sides were about 90% there, and that the A's were going to bring in their own mediator to try and, close this as tight as possible between the two sides. And if you're telling me right now that in the end, the A's in Oakland were about anywhere from $80 to $150 million apart. That's it. That's the only real thing holding a ballpark back from being at Howard Terminal. Then I think in years and decades to come, that's going to be the most disappointing part, that it was that close. And when it was that close, which is what? The average payroll for a major league team in one season, we were that close to decades of existence, another 50 years in a great spot, and everybody's happy. It was that close. And they make the phone call to go the other way. There's a couple things in this I truly don't understand. That is right up there at the very top.
On the other side of things for Vegas, you said basically if they hit some of these benchmarks, I mean, it obviously looks like this could be their team. But when you read things here more recently, Brodie, it sure seems to think on the edges that maybe it's not as buttoned up as it appears. How close on the Vegas side of things are they to being buttoned up here?
Well, and to your point, I think it's a way of life in 2023 that people read a headline, they think they know the entire story, they don't actually read the story, and they assume, the A's are gone because of what they saw a couple Wednesdays ago. That article, what it said was that the A's have agreed to purchase land. They also have the ability to totally back out of the deal if they don't get this $500 million in public tax credits that they're asking for from Clark County and the state of Nevada. So there is that part of it that a lot of people assumed, and they also saw quotes from the governor, Joe Lombardo, who was recently inaugurated right in January in the state of Nevada. He's new, and he seemed to be on board with some of his quotes. But what they don't really paint out in that picture is that there's a lot more other steps that still need to take place. As a lot of people said, the quote, there's wood to chop to get this. Now, I'm not here to tell you that it's not all going to happen, because like I said with the basketball analogy, it could. They could go down and hit that final shot. Oakland made a turnover. They're going the other way with the basketball. Shot clock's off. They kind of get this last possession. And you know what? Even if they don't hit this shot, even if they can't come up with the $500 million, there's still the opportunity to take this ordeal into a special session in Nevada. And by the way, getting the team and keeping the team in Oakland requires the A's ownership group to come back to Oakland and start that conversation all over again. So as far as how things are going in Nevada, I can't be clear. The A's have more than a dozen lobbyists working on legislators in the state of Nevada. They've done this before. The A's as an organization, they worked to lobby some bills in the state of California for their Howard Terminal project to be passed. So they know what they're doing. The only question is, can they do it in time? Can they do it effectively? And will the state of Nevada pony up anywhere between $500 million or more? I mean, they've already committed a lot. It is not a foregone conclusion that they absolutely will.
Brodie, I saw, Raiders owner Mark Davis had some things to say the other day. What role could Mark Davis maybe play in favor of Oakland keeping the A's?
Yeah. Well, those two roommates, the A's and Raiders, they didn't really have a great existence at the Coliseum, now, did they? So, that's been addressed, that's been approached. Mark Davis has obviously some influence in Las Vegas in the community, and he was kind of not first in because the Golden Knights were first in, but he's got a little bit of established profile down there. And I would also say, look, casino operators like Caesars, MGM, Wynn, all of those huge entities are big power players down there. So if they don't like something that's going on, nobody down there wants to have an additional sales tax or hotel tax added to what they're already doing. Because you know what? That's how they paid for Allegiant Stadium. There's already a certain amount, I don't want to say significant amount of regret, but there is a certain amount of regret that Las Vegas and Nevada did what they did to build Allegiant Stadium. So they don't want to do it that way. To be fair to the A's, that's kind of not what they're proposing, but it could work out that way, that's what lawmakers want to do, is add additional taxes. Mark Davis, getting back to the question, could play a factor. I don't know that it would be done in a public fashion. He already made those statements that we all saw. If he were to have any influence, it would likely all be behind the scenes. We would never know about it. But I agree, he could be some type of a factor, not only because of his past, but also think about the future. If you are Taylor Swift and you're going to come in and play a concert, well, I take it back. She's going to sell out Allegiant.
Yeah.
Right. Let's take a smaller band, pick your favorite smaller band, and they're looking for a 35,000 seat venue. Are they going to try and play at the A's new ballpark in the wintertime, like when they're not in season, or are they going to come try and play Allegiant Stadium? There's competition now for big venues. They never had a big one like Allegiant. Now they do. Now they're planning on and hoping on having two.
Brodie Brazil joining us. Brodie, kind of a parallel to Sacramento. I know these cases aren't the exact same, but the Kings were going to leave. They were going to Seattle, and maybe a two-parter here. They did have a commissioner in David Stern that wanted to keep the team here. So there were some pressures there. And then they also ultimately, amongst those pressures, got the Maloofs at that time ownership that had a deal in Seattle, was convincing them to sell to an owner, Vivek Ranadive, to keep the team here. So kind of a two-part side, I guess. Where's Rob Manfred in this on what he thinks the A's should do? And is there any way, any influence that anybody might have that John Fisher could sell a team to anybody that, like Joe Lacob or others, that have said they want to keep the team in Oakland? All
right, let me handle the first one first. Obviously, you know how there's a David Stern way outside of G1C. Yeah, there's never going to be a Rob Manfred way anywhere, and it's only because he has totally taken the side of baseball's business interest, right? And this is what one of their owners wants to do. He's gonna back that. I do feel like in the David Stern era and the way he handled it, number one, I think he instantly regretted moving the Sonics out of Seattle. So everybody kind of felt that, well, Seattle's owed one here. But at the same time, I truly think in reverse, he made the best decision for basketball, right? And we'll still have, I'm sure in our lifetimes, we'll see the NBA back up in Seattle. But David Stern and Rob Manfred are not acting in the same way. I think the second part of what you asked there is that what would bring the A's to potentially selling the team? I don't, at this point, I don't even know. I don't know. Some things that have happened here, there is an opportunity to get out. We've heard standing offers of people, like Joe Lacob said he would want to buy the team. If it's not in their interest to sell, they may never do it. This may also, moving to Las Vegas, I mean, certainly it's going to increase the value of the franchise, which I think was recently estimated at $1.2 billion. Some people have said the value of the franchise, if you call Las Vegas home, instantly doubles overnight. So I don't know what could get it to that point. I will say this. Major League Baseball, I'll reverse. Rob Manfred had promised the A's that if they relocate to Las Vegas, they would not be subject to a $500 million relocation fee. Who promised that? Why that was a promise? I have no clue. But ultimately, when MLB owners get to voting on this, they're going to vote on not just the A's relocating to what would be baseball's smallest market, but also, can the A's go scot-free? Can they go without the $500 million fee? Because Las Vegas, we know MLB is going to expand by the end of this decade. Las Vegas would produce a $2 billion expansion franchise that somebody would pay for to get into baseball owning it. So would they really sacrifice that? I don't know.
Last one for you, Brodie. The A's, we're going to talk a little on the field stuff. The A's are on track.
Do we have to?
No.
Let's go back to Malik Monk.
Exactly. Yeah, those Malik Monk takes, please. The A's are on track right now for 130 plus losses. Are there any positive or possible victories that fans can take on the field, or is it all just kind of hoping for off the field victories?
I would at this point suggest you turn on the TV, watch pre and post game. Help me out.
Yeah, absolutely. Do that.
No, but actually, I mean, if you can pick a day that Mason Miller is starting a game for Oakland, he has been electric. 3 starts in, throwing easy 100 out there. I mean, if the A's are to ever have another big three, Hudson, Mulder, and Zito, like he could be in that category of starting pitchers, I think, in the next couple of years. I've really liked Esteury Ruiz. Probably on pace to, I don't know what the pace is, but he could easily steal 40 bags this year. He's been their leadoff guy, hitting real well with runners in scoring position. The problem is, I could go on and on here, but I could probably name you 3 or 4 bright spots, and that's it. And the real thing is that those bright spots are not, as you know, with the record, are not producing anything meaningful. And you know, I'll say this last thing on the record. It is what it is, and the pace, is 130 losses. In any other season, this would be the headline. We would be talking about scores and scoreboards and standings. This season, based on the bigger picture, I can't say what I really want to say here because I know you'll have to bleep it. It doesn't mean you know what. It means nothing. The team staying in Oakland means everything. So I know the games are terrible to watch right now, but take it with a grain of salt because it matters not at all in the bigger picture.
Well, we're going to say it this way. When the team stays, should it be Brodie Brazil way, or what do we want to name it out there?
Let's do it.
There's a few others out there who are fighting the good fight, shall I say, to just at least, look, what influence do I have? I just want to keep people informed. I want to give people the right information. I want to let people, it's confusing, right? And when this was happening in Sacramento, super confusing about, what is Anaheim doing? What is Seattle doing? What's Virginia Beach doing? So I really want to make sure that people are at least up to date. They have a perspective. I am absolutely not a journalist. I wouldn't say I'm an advocate either, but I'm somebody who just wants to make sure that if this goes down in a good way or a bad way, that we all knew what was happening the entire time.
That's well said. Well, Brodie, we appreciate your insight here. We'll talk to you again soon.
I appreciate it. Guys, have a great day.
Thank you,
Brodie.
Brodie Brazil. Who knew he was a Malik Monk fan?
Yeah, who knew?
Yeah,
well, Malik could probably give the A's a couple at bats. I would imagine.
Yes, he could. All right, that's painful. I mean, we know
tough,
it, Kings
man.
fans. We gotta come back in. If you're an A's fan too, kind of what do you root for now? How do you approach the last part of this? We'll kind of follow up on some of the stuff Brodie said when we're back on Chris and Co. here on Sactown Sports.